All right, everybody. I'm DiggingZ71. My name is Dylan, and this is a video I've been trying to make now for several days, maybe like going on a week actually. So this is going to be my Q&A video. This is something that is not going to be very exciting. It's going to be pretty long. This is something definitely for the few and not for the many. There's going to be a lot of stuff in here that dives pretty deep into my motivations, my inspirations. There's going to be some short, easy, quick, simple answers, a little bit of everything. But this is going to be basically podcast style. You guys are going to turn this thing on, listen to it, let it run while you're out there digging, working in the shop. So if you follow me on Instagram, if you follow me on Facebook and some of my favorite Facebook groups that I like to post in, I asked you guys to submit some questions that maybe I hadn't already covered in previous videos, something maybe a little bit deeper than I typically go into in videos, or just some random facts that you guys would like to know, whether it be about me, Clifford, Mr. Bill, the new truck, whatever. So let's get right in it. Number one, why a four-wheel drive and not a two-wheel drive? You know, this question is basically a whole lot simpler than it seems. There's no real story to why I started with a four-wheel drive, other than that's the truck that I got. Whenever I inherited this thing from my great-grandpa Clifford, then that's just what I started with. If I had had a two-wheel drive truck, it likely would be a two-wheel drive that I'm racing. It just turns out that I've kind of fallen in love with the 4x4 niche in terms of racing. But that's pretty much the short and sweet of that. You know, I started with a 4x4 truck and here I am. So question number two, why a four-wheel drive and not a car? So specifically, you know, I would like to think that this is more about why is it a truck and not a car? And it's sort of the same lines as the previous question. I started with the truck, so here I ended up with a truck. But, you know, I really, you know, the truck thing has its own persona. It has its own value of fun that's just, you can't get out of a car. And the only way I know how to explain it is just go get one. You have to race a truck to know what it's like to race a truck. Everybody has a car. Everybody's gone fast in a car. You're supposed to do it, and you're not supposed to do it with a truck. And maybe that's why it's fun. I'm not sure. There just really is something about a truck. All right, so number three, what are your plans with the new truck? So the new truck, it's sitting out there. It's off camera. But the short and sweet of that one, yeah, I'm going to try to run through these questions as quick as I can, but the long story short with that one is it's getting a Coyote swap. That's what we're doing with it. I got the motor and transfer case all ready to go. Basically, there's a few things I want to check off the list with Clifford before I dive in full steam ahead on that truck. But it's going to get a Coyote. Now, as far as beyond that, the opportunities are endless. That's why I wanted to do another truck. I wanted to take what I have learned with Clifford and apply it from the get-go with the new truck, but then let my opportunities just go where they may. You know, some people have talked about it being straight race truck. Some people have talked about it being a daily driver. And right now, I'm not cutting anything out. These are both opportunities that I'm willing to pursue. Oh, look, you can see Allie pulling up in the mirror. All right, guys, sorry about that. My girlfriend just got home, but man, she's a good one. I wouldn't be able to do half of what I do if it wasn't for her. But back to the questions here. So question number three was, what are the plans with the new truck? And like I said, it's getting a Coyote swap. But the benefit to this new truck is that the opportunities are endless. With Clifford, there's only so much that I'm willing to do. I'm not willing to cut it up. I'm not really, like, you know, it might get a roll bar in it, but I'm not super hyped about like putting dash bars and stuff out the back window, blah, blah, blah. There's certain things that are semi-permanent when you go too far in the race truck direction that I'm not willing to do to this truck. I would rather the future of Clifford be in a nicer direction as opposed to, you know, making it straight race truck. So with this new truck, those opportunities are there, whether it be turns into a legitimate whole daily driver, whether it turns into a whole race truck. It is going to start life as a Coyote swapped, drive it around, enjoy it truck, but then the opportunities, like I said, are endless beyond there. Whatever the wind blows, whatever my current interest is, whatever the opportunities present themselves is where we're going to head with that one. I wanted an open-ended project that I could take from start to finish, and you guys could see how I build something. I wanted to do that, and then from there, whatever happens, happens. I don't want to limit myself to a short-sighted goal with that. So that's where that new truck is going. So number 5 is end plan for Clifford and the new project. So we kind of answered that. Clifford, it's going to be with me forever. It is always going to be an evolving project in one direction or another. It's always going to continue to be nicer and nicer. That's, like I said, I'm going to improve on the quality of Clifford. I want to start focusing on that a little bit more. There's a little bit more ET at the track I want to get. There's some personal goals there that I really want to achieve, but I want to make the quality of Clifford nicer. I want it to do all the same things that it's doing now while doing it better and looking better and performing better. It just needs to get better 360 degrees around. And then so the same thing for the new truck. I want to build something start to finish so you guys can see how, you know, you can apply your time to a project and make something really, really valuable without just having to dump buckets of money in. So that's the kind of the plans for both of those. Number 6, I'd rather see a Demon swap than a Coyote swap. Well, if you would rather see that, go do it, because unless you're signing the check and sending me a Demon motor, I'm gonna do what I want. Like, you know, if that's what you would rather see, I would rather see you do that too than rather you tell me to do it, because unless you're gonna pay for it, I'm not gonna do it. 7, how much power does Clifford have? That's, you know, that's a tough question, because you can't just use the same typical calculators as everybody else between like weight and fuel consumption and yada yada yada, because the 4-wheel drive is pretty parasitic and there's some other things going on, blah 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 blah. But if I had to guess, the last no prep that I went to, I did about 112 mile an hour across the traps there. So weighing with me in the seat and all full of gear and everything, about 4,300 pounds, puts me high 700s, maybe low 800s to the tire. The fuel consumption numbers that we see in the Holly match that. I don't want to just throw out a 1320 like, oh yeah, it makes you know, 1,300 horse to the tire. Yeah, I don't want to throw a number like that out, but I don't want to like pretend like I'm lowballing. I just really don't know. We haven't had enough data and enough time at the track to really get enough clean runs in to say, all right, this is the, you know, kind of the 50 wheel horsepower window that we're working with. But if I had to guess just straight off the cuff based on weight mile an hour, I would say high 700s, low 800s to the tire, which is pretty good out of the setup that we have. Not disappointed with that at all, but gotta get more power, baby. All right, 8, how any boost or nitrous to the Coyote? Well, it just, you know, I would love a blower on the truck, but it's gonna start out all motor, and then of course I just can't help myself. I'm just toxic like that. It's gonna get some nitrous to begin with. So the idea with that truck is to get it going, get it running, enjoy it. Like I said, let the opportunities come. But I know that sooner or later, it's just who I am as a person. It's gonna have to get faster, and that involves nitrous. That's the quickest and easiest way to get that going. So I'm sure it's gonna get some spray on it sooner than later. Number 9. How does it even happen to a steering wheel in the new truck? Bro, listen, I have no idea. So like what happens in Florida stays in Florida. It's a Florida truck. It actually has, you know, been local to me its whole life. And, you know, I don't know. That's that. What happens in Florida stays in Florida. 10. Would you like to get gapped by a fellow 4x4 enthusiast? So that's Boosted Brick. That's my buddy Travis. He has an animal of a 4-wheel drive C10. You should definitely go check him out. I'll put his Instagram down below. That thing is, you know, he's done a Race Week 2.0 with it. He was really hoping to get on Race Peak 1 this year for 2021. But yes, I would absolutely love to get gapped, or at least let you try. You know, you've been faster than me, but I think I am faster than you. So we'll leave it at that. We'll let the, you know, we'll take the beams together, let the next 660 feet decide who's getting gapped. Number 11, what horsepower range are you shooting for with the Coyote? So to begin with, everything I see says I should be in the like low 400 range, all motor with some Coyote cams and stuff in it. So that's kind of where I would shoot at to begin with. And then, like I said, it's gonna get nitrous shortly soon to follow. Now, what range am I shooting for? Well, as much as possible. That's, you know, I don't want to go crazy with it, but more power, baby. Number 12, what trans are you using with the Yodi? So I picked up a 6R80 for it. I found one of those in a local junkyard with a transfer case. So I'm pretty excited about that. You could do trans brake things with those things right out of the box. I've got a pigtail from another guy online. Thank you to him for sending me that. That was a big help. He just, you know, mailed me that box for the price of shipping. That was a huge help. So 13, this is a good one. I read this question earlier. What got your YouTube channel started? I need to know. So what got it started is you know, that's a multi-piece answer. And so what got it started is that 4 years ago when I started this thing, somebody told me, who wasn't wrong, but somebody told me I needed to spend like buckets and buckets and buckets of dollars on this thing if I ever wanted it to be like fruitful. If I wanted the juice to be worth the squeeze, I needed to spend all this money on all these things. So he gave me this long parts list of stuff that I was gonna have to buy. But at the time I was making like $12 an hour. I had a newborn. I was working through college. You know, it just wasn't realistic for me. So I instead focused my goals on each necessary piece, one after the other, that I had to have to meet the next goal. I started setting short-term goals. Okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. And I realized through this entire time that you can buy all the best parts that you want, but if you just throw them together, they're gonna be junk. But if you buy just the necessary items, but you spend time, you invest your time in something, you can make something work. You have to know the limitations of the parts involved. You can't, you know, put a $200 part in there and expect to get $1,000 results. You can't do that. But if you can disassociate, you know, what everybody else does on the internet from your enthusiasm, if you can be enthused by your own project and your own progress, then that's what you need to do. So I made this YouTube channel to tell people that it's okay to start somewhere and progress over time. You don't have to over budget and over invest yourself in a project that never gets done, or that gets, you know, you see everything on the internet and they tell you got to make 1,300 to the tire to be cool, and that's just not true. So, you know, I needed to make a channel to tell other people that. But then, you know, so that's probably the motivation behind the channel. So what got it started? People telling me I needed to do it. So there was people around me that, you know, heard this message and heard this over time, you know, heard my perspective develop, and they're like, dude, you need to, you know, put this out there. I promise that will be successful. So there's Mitchell, you know, he's been a #1 player in this game for me for this whole time. And then I have some dirt track buddies, Hunt the Front. They started their own vlog, and, you know, I had a kind of hand in that, getting their feet off the ground, and they've been wildly successful. So I've kind of taken the recipe that they've laid between Mitchell and those guys and paved my own path between the two. And that's what got me started, was motivation self-motivation for a message I felt like needed to be said, and then some good, knowledgeable friends that just told me to make the jump. And so here we are. So 14, who will be tuning the Coyote swap? Well, you know, if you'd asked me that question 2 weeks ago, I probably would have had a really simple answer for you. But now, apparently, the tuning game is getting wild. It's getting changed. So that is to be determined. I hope to get this thing running sooner than later. So before the EPA can wipe us all out, that would be something I would love to get going. But who will be tuning the Coyote swap is a much tougher question than we can answer. But lucky for me, I know some good Coyote guys. They all use a couple of different people with all good results. And I got some good buddies over in Louisiana who might be able to help me out if nothing else. So that's kind of where my head's thinking. But hey, hush. All right, so 15. How fast do you think you can get it? How fast do I think I can get what? Clifford? I don't know, high fives. We can get there, excuse me. We can get there relatively easy, high fives. The new truck, endless. Well, we don't know. I don't know. We'll go a 430 with it. No, I'm kidding. I think that high fives, although we're a pretty good ways away from it now, are not too far in the distant future for Clifford. I think that I can start connecting dots and I can get the right pieces in place to get him into the high five range, at least as a short-term goal. That's how fast I think I can get Clifford without spending more money than I'm willing to spend, or making more changes to Clifford than I'm willing to make. The new truck, we don't know. So horsepower every day is getting easier and easier to buy, easier and easier to come by. Combos are working better and better. So with that truck, being, like I said earlier, that the possibilities for it are kind of open at the moment, who knows? It might could go low fives in a freaking four-wheel drive pickup truck. So how fast do you think you can get it? Probably high fives this direction, and who knows over there. Mr. Bill, not very fast. He is very slow. We'll go ahead and point that out. So 16, if you could give your past self some advice to help with this build, what would it be? So that's kind of what I want to do with the new truck. There's not much advice I would give my old self other than just keep doing it, because some of the mistakes that I made along the first time with Clifford was how I learned to make it better. Because if everything just works flawlessly the first time around, there's no consequences, I should say. Like, I don't think that everything should be learned the hard way, but there's some value when it does happen that way. So there is something valuable about learning things when they come from unexpected results, whether those are positive or negative. That's what I would say. So when those things happen, I don't think I would tell myself to change anything about the build progress that I did with this, other than just to keep doing it. Don't let people discourage you whenever they don't see the vision that you have, or whenever they disagree with the choices that you make. Now, you shouldn't be an idiot and just, you don't need to go full send, but just keep doing it. Do the best job that you can do as often as you can do it, and before long, you'll have something pretty nice. 17, why are you cooler in real life than online? Well, I don't know. I'm trying my best to make my real life persona come through this camera, and I think it's pretty hard. So I don't know. You'll have to answer that one. Why am I cooler in real life than online? Sounds like a compliment. I'm reading it that way. I'm taking it that way. If you haven't met me in person, come say hey. I'm a nice guy. 18, what advice can you give to someone starting their first build? So back to the same thing, just do it. What advice can you give? Do the best job that you can do with the best parts available. Don't over budget, don't overspend, don't get ahead of yourself. The time that you spend under the hood and the time that you spend in the seat are the most valuable things that you can give to your project ever. There is something to be said about somebody who takes their vehicle to the track one time and then spends $20,000 on it, and it makes it, worlds nicer and faster, but they don't know how to use it, or they're afraid of it, or something goes wrong and they're stuck back under the table again for another 10 months. There is something to be said about somebody who learns their vehicle in and out through progression and time spent both under the hood and in the seat. That's what I would say. Don't get ahead of yourself. Spend the time that you can and make it as nice as you can, and you'll get there. 19, why trucks in general? Trucks typically require more effort than cars to go fast. We talked about it earlier. There's something about a truck. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's because it's harder to do. Maybe it's because you're not supposed to do it. I'm really not sure, but there is something about trucks. 20, so me versus Stapleton's Escalade. So bring it on, Mitchell. If you are out there, you're watching this video, if you've made it this far, not only should you subscribe so that way you can actually see that race if we ever make it happen. Maybe we should do it at Yellow Belly. So for anybody who watches Mitchell's videos, tag him here in the comments. Make sure you get his attention. He normally checks on mine every now and then. But tell him we want to see Clifford and the Escalade go down at Yellow Belly. Maybe it'll be the first time that he gets the Escalade back out. I'll have this guy up to par and up to speed to run with the Escalade, because right now he's got me edged out. That big old girl makes a little more power than my 5.3 does. So maybe that's what we can do. So question 21, fastest 60 foot in Clifford. My fastest 60 foot on paper is a 144. That was last year in September at the diesel race that we had in Holt. That was the pass that I had boost cut issues. So I had moved the boost up quite a bit, but I forgot to take the safety cut out. So the safety cut happened at like 20 pounds, and we were expecting another 8 or 9. It's closer to that 28 that we've been on lately. So my fastest 60 foot on paper is a 144. But if you'll remember the pass that I broke, the rear end, the front diff, and the CV axle, all in one pass, that probably was going to be my fastest 60, because I laid the graphs over the two in the data log, and the mile per hour spike was significantly higher. So we were probably headed towards our first 1.3 variable X 60 foot before we completely grenaded the thing. So fastest 60 foot in Clifford is a 144. So number 22, have you had any problem doing 4-wheel drive launches with the transfer case or axle shafts? With the transfer case, no, I've never had a problem with it. The only thing I've ever done with it is put a 32 spline input shaft in it, so that way it would work with the 4L80. The axle shafts. So doing 4-wheel drive launches specifically, no, I have never had one fail during a launch. I have had 2 axles fail, but both because of the same reason, and that's because, like at ride height sitting here, the axle is angled up, like the diff is lower than the hub, so the axle is angled up. Now under a normal, typical dead hooking launch, the front end of the truck comes up and the axles come level because they're angled like this in the truck. So under a normal launch, they come up flat and we play nice and everybody's happy. It's straight and that's as strong as they can be. But twice, once at the launch of a track and once at the end of a track, the truck nosedived so hard, nosedived, I don't know, I don't English is hard, but the truck nosedived so hard that the axle came out of the cup on the driver's side. That's happened to me twice. So specifically during a launch, have I had a parts failure happen because of strength limitations? No. Have I had an issue on a launch with a CV axle? Yes, but it was because the truck was spinning and I was like all over the place, and at some point it dipped down so much on this driver's side that the axle just kind of pulled its way out of the cup. It didn't have enough travel. 23, what possessed you to turn a family truck into a race truck? So nothing really possessed me to do that. I just wanted to do something with the truck. It was to a point, the truck was starting to get nicer. I wasn't just straight mud riding it anymore. And I was like, you know, this thing would be kind of cool with a camshaft in it. So this had the TBI 350 in it, which was junk. It wasn't very good. I mean, it was junk for power. It cranked up and ran every time. It was flawless. Still running in a work truck today. But it wasn't good for power. I wanted a cam that sounded good. I wanted to be able to kind of hop this thing up, you know. So what happened is I realized that the TBI 350 was not going to be the best motor candidate to put a cam in because of a laundry list of reasons. So I was like, all right, well, I'll look into this whole LS swap deal. That's, you know, that sounds kind of cool. I would like that. That's neat. So I basically decided that I wanted a cammed 5.3 or a stock 6-liter, and then I would upgrade the cam down the road. But long story short, here we are. It just snowballed between a 6-liter, and then I went ahead and put a cam in it, and because it got a cam, it got a converter. Because I got a converter, I decided to put a bigger cam in. And since I'm going to do that, I might as well put it on street tires. And if I'm going to put it on street tires, it might as well be kind of shorter so I get more oomph. And now here we are. So nothing possessed me to turn my family truck into a race truck other than this gigantic, financially burdening snowball. That's what happened. So 24, why a turbo over nitrous or a supercharger? So if you've been around following me on Instagram for a long time, you'll know that this used to be a nitrous truck. I used to have a plate kit on it, and I enjoyed that a lot, except for filling bottles all the time. That wasn't that great. Now I end up having to fill myself with ice and C16, which is worse than filling bottles, but it is what it is. You know, so the turbo, basically, the only reason it doesn't have a blower is I've never had enough. Like, I never just had $6 grand laying around to just put a fat Whipple on top of this thing. That's a huge chunk of change for someone like me. But I would love a Whipple. There is nothing against those whatsoever. I would love a Pro Charger. I would love to have that stick your foot in the pedal and the truck go fast type of thing. But turbo ultimately is a little bit, I don't want to say this by saying that turbo or that nitrous and blowers are dangerous, but turbos are safer, meaning that you have a wider margin of error. I think that you can make it absolutely the same amount of power between any of the 3 power adders within reason on a stock motor, but a turbo setup, you have a little bit wider margin of error as you get into those higher power ranges. And just having all the boost all the time, something that you can piece together, is sort of why my snowball rolled towards turbo. But number 25, with everything I've done to Clifford, is there anything that I regret doing? Nothing that I really regret, because nothing that I've done is permanent. There are a few dents and dings in it that kind of happened accidentally that grind my gears. There are a few things that, like, I took the AC out at some point. I wish that I had just left that in. Of course, I can put it all back in, and it is on the plan to do so. But I wish that I'd never talked myself into getting rid of it in the first place. But there are no permanent changes to Clifford that I regret whatsoever. Everything has been a learning experience. Everything has taught me a little bit more about what I want moving forward, and I'm grateful for that. And, you know, other than, you know, I don't know, there's nothing really I regret. It's all taught me something or done something for me that's valuable in some way or another, that it outweighs sort of my, like, I don't like that attitude towards a couple of things that we covered in my 7 likes and dislikes video that you should definitely go check out and watch. All right, so second page, 26, anything I would do differently. Oh, what would I do differently? That's going to be sort of like what we talked about, what goes on with the new truck. There's a lot of stuff that I know now that I didn't know then. They're going to go straight into this new truck. So what would I do differently? Not much. I would just take my time and clean things. Like if there's grease and dirt in a place, rather than just kind of ignoring it and bolting the new part in place whenever I have something that's disassembled and taken apart. If I could do it differently, that would be the only thing, is to take everything apart, clean it, paint what I can, put it back in, and do it that way. So that way the next time you're there, you're not like discouraged from working on it. Because if you're going to get under your truck and get filthy and disgusting, it's easier to make it an excuse not to do so. But if it's nice, clean, easy to work on, you're more encouraged to keep doing that. And the more times that you clean one small thing at a time, the more clean things that you have on your truck, and the more clean it is, I just think it makes the entire project a better ordeal. So if I could do anything differently, I would start putting effort into cleaner, shinier pieces from the beginning. That's it. I just think it takes the quality up a notch, which makes you more proud, more happy, more serviceable. It makes it easier to work on. There's benefits aside from just appearing nicer. Aesthetics aren't everything, and chrome doesn't get you home. That's not what I'm saying. Just saying that if I could do anything differently, I would spend a little bit more time putting my hands on things that needed attention, whether it just be to clean it, whether it be to double check bolts are tight, whether it be to make sure the wiring is perfect and that it's, that's the only thing I would do, is spend a little bit more time with everything that I've done. So 27, now that I have the two-tone truck, will Clifford ever go back to his two-tone colors? Yes, 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 yes. Clifford is absolutely going back to the green, gold, green that he's famous for. Well, I can't say famous for, that he is famous locally for knowing. Everyone that lives local to here that knew me in high school when I used to drive it in those colors has begged me for years and years to paint them back. And I think they finally twisted my arm enough to make that happen. So yes, just because I have the new two-tone truck doesn't mean that this one isn't going back. I think it will be freaking sweet to have both of them two-tone. That's one of the features I wanted in a new truck, was to have one two-tone from the get-go. All right, so 28. Pros and cons of four-wheel drive launching. Pros, there is some relative consistency. There is some relative, you can't mess this thing up in terms of the 60-foot when you have a four-wheel drive. You're basically, you can try really hard, and until you make a crap ton of power, you have to actually try to mess up. And I am just now experiencing that. Like, I took myself all the way down to the low 140, 60-foot range before I started discovering actual traction problems. That before, not even traction problems, just traction inconsistencies. So you've probably seen me, kind of spinning the tires a lot lately, and that's not really because I have too much power and I can't manage it. It's just because we're trying different things and I'm finding things that do and don't work. Sometimes I know that I'm a little bit outgunned and I'm just trying and hoping that this next setup will work. I think with a couple of rounds of testing, we could really have this thing working, and that's the plan, is to top just full send it in eliminations and start trying to work towards some more testing. But that's another question altogether. Pros and cons of four-wheel drive launching. Pros, there is some relative consistency across all surfaces that your truck's gonna do within a very small window of the same thing every time, regardless of surface, track prep, track conditions. It's gonna do its job most of the time. Now, the cons of that. The cons is that it's only going to go so fast. A guy that has a two-wheel drive or a rear-wheel drive truck set up just right will go way faster than we will. It's just how the game works. The way that weight transfer occurs, the way that parasitic loss happens. Guys who have their ducks in a row in a two-wheel drive are they're gonna outdo us. But what we really hope for is that we can hang around close enough that, they don't just drive away from us on the other side. We hope that we can catch them on one of their inconsistent days. We hope that our consistency makes up for their greater opportunities over here. So we have this wide margin of error where they have this wide margin of opportunity in terms of 60-foot times. So pros, consistency. Cons, you got a relatively small window of how fast you can actually go, in my opinion. There are exceptions to that on both ends of the spectrum, but for me, that's the direct experience that I've had. I can launch this thing wherever I want, however I want, and it's going to do its job. But I've been out 60-footed a lot by some really good trucks out there. So 29, we're getting close to the end here. There's 29 out of 35. The last couple are some pretty good questions, so stick around for those. And if you're still here, like, you know, while I got you stopped, freaking subscribe, man. Like this, I'm giving you so much insight into me. If you're still here watching this, listening to this, tell somebody about me, because you really have no idea. This ramp, this thing that we're doing, it's about to take off. I have so many irons in the fire, so many things going on between Clifford getting cleaned up, ready to race, between the new truck, getting the motor swap. We're about to do big things here. We're about to teach people things. We're about to show people how to enjoy the racetrack, how to enjoy racing in general. That's what we're doing. So if you're here, ring the bell, subscribe. There's a lot of stuff coming. Back to the questions we go. What did you do to solve the issues you had when four-wheel drive launching? So the issues that I've had has been sort of because no one really made parts for the OBS trucks specifically. You can get Cognito, you can get Kryptonite, you can get all these other nice brands for the new body style and newer, so like the 2000 trucks and newer. There's a lot of tie rod options, there's pitman arm options, there's this, that, and the other that you can just buy off the shelf to make that happen. So for me, when I wanted some tie rod sleeves, I didn't have any, so I had to get with Cunningham Machine. I talked to my buddy Jeremy, and I'm like, hey man, we're having this problem. This is something that's going on. You guys have a machine shop. You make race car parts. Would you be interested in working with me and getting something going? Let's get this ball rolling for myself and other four-wheel drive guys who want to get rid of this bump steer and this torque steer problem that I'm having. You know, what do you think? So that's step number one, was tie rod sleeves. The factory ones are these clamp styles. They're junk, they're garbage, they're in the trash. They don't belong on the freaking road, in my opinion. They're so bad. Cunningham Machine is the way to go for your typical street truck. Now, I want to try some new stuff that Kryptonite just released, just for my own curiosity's sake. But the stuff that Jeremy does, the Cunningham Machine, couldn't be better. I'm incredibly impressed with that stuff. So that would be the step number one. What issues did I do to resolve the issues I had when four-wheel drive launching? And that's help Jeremy develop these tie rod sleeves. Luckily, they came to me right out of the box, ready to go. I told him one little tweak about the ends, and things have been great for all of his customers. They've been great for myself. Super happy that he's able to make a product that works for me and everyone else as well. But other than that, I really haven't had any issues, so to speak. Not issues that are going to be common across this platform in general. There might have been specific issues day to day, but four-wheel drive issues all starts around the tie rod sleeves. They need to be improved, and Cunningham Machine provides an option to do that. Number 30, how much horsepower do you put down on the spicy tuna? You know, that was one of the questions earlier that we talked about. High 800, high 700s, low 800s. I really don't know. Maybe we can strap this thing on a dyno and get a number out of it. Really not concerned. I just want to keep finding my way faster and faster down the track, and I don't care what the dyno says in the meantime. But 31, what are your exhaust plans with the new downpipe? So I've done a couple little drives around this thing. I haven't done a video on it yet. It's just been, so this weekend was a diesel race, and it was an incredible weekend. The weather was beautiful, and I just kind of threw my phone in the passenger seat, didn't touch it, didn't look at it all weekend, and I just enjoyed it for the first time. It's been so cold, so rainy, so whatever. But this weekend, we had some really, really nice early springtime Florida weather, and I took the time to enjoy it with my friends from out of town, went out on the boat with some other buddies. Good weekend. But back to the exhaust. What are my plans? Like I said, I took this thing for a drive, and it sounds like a freaking tuba in there. It is drones so bad. Richard, you built a nice-ass downpipe. It looks beautiful. Lane, you polished it, man. That is beyond nice, but holy cow. I feel like I'm rolling around in a 55-gallon drum. It's drones so bad. So something has to happen. I'm not entirely sure. Ideally, there gets to be a boost cutout right about the same exit that it dumps at now. So, you know, when I'm wide open throttle, I don't care about the drone because it happens for such a short duration. But something needs to head its way further back. Whether it be a full 3-inch tailpipe just with some regular exhaust to tone this thing down for street driving. You know, something. But something's got to happen. I don't know. That'll be an interesting video to come up with. Maybe we'll try a whole different muffler swap series, and we'll see what we end up liking the best. Question number 32. Is a new OBS getting a blower? Well, if you're VMP, if you're Whipple, if you're whoever else makes Coyote blowers, I don't even know. If this is you asking this question, that depends entirely up to you. No, I'm kidding. I would love to get a sponsored blower. I would love to get some help on one of those. And I would love to ultimately put one on that truck. That would be one of my goals, honestly, is if that thing could get a blower. I've always wanted a blower truck. Coyotes and blowers go together like cheese and grits. If you're not from the South, you got to try some grits. They go together like peanut butter and jelly, you know, you name it. Coca-Cola at the hibachi restaurant, the little volcano. That's, blowers and coyotes are like that. So is it getting one? I would love to. Is it getting one for sure? I'm not sure. Number 33. This is one of my better questions on the list. I told you we had some good ones to get to, but this is one of the better ones, and it's, how does my family like Clifford? Well, that entirely depends on who you ask, because I have one side of this family who are very, very traditional. They think that I never should have painted the thing. They think I should have left it alone. They think that it'd be better off just being as a hunting truck like my grandpa used to do it, use it as. They totally don't see the vision and the opportunities that I have for this thing. But if you ask my daughter, if you ask my girlfriend, if you ask my mom even, you know, I would say that she's on the kind of traditionalist side, you know, but she's come right along for this journey. We're definitely gonna have to take her for a ride. But the short and sweet of how does my family like Clifford depends on who you ask. It's a polarizing subject, just like it is among viewers and people on the internet. One hand, people think it needs to be a mud truck, or, you know, at least a daily driver, four-wheel drive, capable truck. The other people don't get the racing side of the thing, the lowered Z71 side. They don't get it. So, you know, it's a polarizing topic, but for the most part, everything's positive. And I know at the end of the day, everyone's happy to see the truck out. They're happy to see it living. It's not getting blown up. It's not getting, you know, physically beat on. It's not going to waste. It's not rotting away. They know that it'll be around forever. So regardless of their opinion on the path that the truck is taking, they're at least secure in the future that it has as a quality truck. So that's that. So 35, do I ever plan on opening the bottom end up? Well, I assume that this is in reference to Clifford, since it's a stock bottom end motor and the Coyote deal is kind of new. But yes, you know, whenever that time happens, it happens. Whether it opens itself up, we'll see. Or whether, you know, I got a set of rods sitting inside. I've been waiting on a piston choice, you know, as far as bore size and things go. But yes, the ideal plan for this thing is to turn it into a rod and piston motor, stock crank deal with a set of trick flows on top. We, you know, we start making some real steam, some real juice with this thing. That's ultimately what I would love to do with it. But until there really seems to be a need, like until I know that I'm just like head gasket and rod limited by this thing, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to fix what ain't broke. So for the time being, it's going to be stock bottom end until I feel a necessity to change that. But yes, in the pipeline, it will get a built motor, because we want to get spicy fast with this thing, and it's going to take a built motor to do it with the plans that we have. And so for last and certainly not least, this is question number 35. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Well, I think that it goes along the same lines of, if Peter Piper could pack a pickle peppers, where's the pack of pickle peppers Peter Piper could pick? You know what I'm saying? That's it. So if you're still here, I'm Digging Z71. Thanks for watching. Keep digging. We'll see you next time.